Well, hey everybody, welcome. Glad you could join us. I am Matt Johnson. I do all of our training and webinars and everything. And glad you could join us today. We're going to be going over an introduction to Appraise-It Pro. Hold on. Yeah, I'm going to make sure this is working, and it is. Okay. We're going to be going over an introduction to Appraise-It Pro. Now, a couple things I want you to know before we get started. There is going to be on the right-hand side, so over here, there's going to be a chat area. And what you can do is you can go ahead and ask your questions there. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have in relation to Appraise-It Pro or SFREP. And there are some controls that are going to be in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. You're going to see two brackets. If you click on those brackets, that is going to make the entire video go full screen. However, you may not want to do that because then you lose the ability to chat. So you may actually want to use the small little rectangle that'll also be down there. That'll put YouTube into theater mode, and that will allow you to still have the chat function, which will then be down below, and it'll make the video bigger and much easier for you to see. So I believe that's everything. If you don't have Appraise-It Pro yet, you can contact our sales office after we get off this webinar, 800-523-0872, or you can just use this number. They both go to the same place, 800-644-4051, and they will be happy to help you. What they can do is they'll go ahead and add Appraise-It Pro to your account, and then they will schedule, if you want, one of our technicians to contact you, get logged in on your computer, and they can help you with the installation process. Now, you don't have to do that. They can just go ahead and set it up on your account, and then you can install it yourself if you would like. They'll send you an email with all the instructions. But if you want one of our technicians to help you out with it, no problem. They can most certainly do that. As long as you are on the Appraise-It subscription plan, which I assume most of our existing customers are, then you can go ahead and start using Appraise-It Pro. There is no additional fee. And remember, you can have Appraise-It Pro and Appraise-It Classic installed on your computer at the same time and use them side by side with each other. Now, if you are a new customer or potential customer who's coming over from another software vendor, you can call our offices once we are done with this, 800-644-4051. You can get set up on a demonstration, on a demo period, and we can go ahead and I believe that for new customers, it's up to 6 months. And then you can test out Appraise-It Pro and see if it's going to be right for you. Plus, that period will allow you to maintain your old software while you actually have Appraise-It Pro to aid you in the move over process. Now, Appraise-It Pro is the only 64-bit software on the market. And what does that mean to you? What it mostly means is that if you have more than 4 gigabytes of RAM on your computer, which pretty much all of us do, if you have a 32-bit program like all of our competitors and like Appraise-It Classic, then you can only address about 3.5 gigabytes of that RAM. That's most of the time enough, but if you put a large amount of PDFs into your appraisal report or large photos, that can very quickly eat up that amount of RAM, and then your software package has to swap out to the hard drive, and that can make things a whole lot slower. It can make it more laggy. With Appraise-It Pro being 64-bit, we can address as much memory, as much RAM as you have on your system. So on my computer here, I have 16 gigabytes of RAM. Appraise-It Pro is able to leverage all of that because it is a 64-bit program. So let's go ahead and get started. So what we're going to do here is we're going to crank up Appraise-It Pro. And you can see that I do have Appraise-It Classic and Appraise-It Pro on my system. Now you're not going to see the splash screen because that actually shows up on my other monitor. And it is because I just installed an update to Appraise-It Pro. It did have to go ahead and update the data folders. That took it just a few more seconds, but now we are in Appraise-It Pro. So when you are first in Appraise-It Pro, you are going to have this welcome screen here. Now, if you have ever used Microsoft Office, a lot of this will look very familiar to you. We took a lot of design cues from Microsoft Office. We also program Appraise-It Pro in the same development environment that Microsoft Office is done in. So there's going to be a lot of familiarity here if you do use Microsoft Office. Now, this area that you show up in when you first start the program is called by Microsoft and by our developers, they call it the backstage. I don't love that name. I understand what they're going for there. It's using kind of a theater reference. I like to call it the super file menu, and you'll see why. If I click on this little arrow up in the upper left-hand corner, it's going to take me to the main editing area of Appraise-It Pro. Now, I don't currently have a report open, so this is all just blank, But you can see here are all the menus. And once again, if you've used Microsoft Office, this will look very familiar to you. It's a very Windows 10, Windows 11 look to it. But to get back to that backstage area, or the starting area of Appraise-It Pro, I actually come over here and you can see the file menu is a little bit different. It has a inverted color scheme there. It has a black background, signifying it as special. And when I click on it, that takes me back to this backstage area. And the reason that I like to call it a super file menu is that pretty much everything that was in the file menu in Appraise-It Classic or in other programs is here in the backstage. You got new, open, search, settings. There's a bunch of other settings or selections right here that are ghosted out because I don't have an appraisal report open. You're probably never going to really use these. They're here, but they're also here in the home menu. And this makes more sense as where you would actually use that. But they're there. We also have new window and exit. New window does exactly what it says. It is going to create another instance of Appraise-It Pro. One of the cool things about Pro is you can have as many instances of it open as you want. So you can have as many files open as you want. So if you have 3 monitors, you could open up 3 instances of Appraise-It Pro and either be working on 3 different reports at the same time. Be careful when you do that because you need to make sure that you're typing in the right window. But it can be very helpful if you need to reference another file or if you want to copy and paste things from another file as well. And then, of course, exit is really self-explanatory. You click on exit, it exits the program. It does the same thing as the X in the upper right-hand corner does. This is the welcome area, and this is going to update every time that you open up Appraise-It Pro as long as you're signed onto the internet in some way. So if you're offline on a laptop out in the woods, this is just going to show you the most recent update for it. But as long as you're online, this will grab the latest updates for the welcome screen here. And this is just a way for us to communicate with you, let you know about certain things that are going on either as Safari P or in the industry. And sometimes we'll put, like if we're having a flood map sale or something like that, we'll put that in here as well. Although don't expect it to be used for a lot of marketing. We're never going to put pictures and gifts and all that stuff in here. It's just going to be very muted and very informative. Below that, we have new. This is essentially the file new menu that was in Appraise-It Classic or whatever software you were previously using. And this is where you choose the primary report type that you are going to begin with. So here under frequently used, you can see I have my 1004, 1004C, the D. There's the regular desktop 1004. These are all the most recently used and frequently used report types that I have. And then I also have categories down here: UAD, GSE desktop and hybrid forms, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, non-lender, condominium, etc., etc. You can go through here and you can collapse these. Like if you never do non-lender work, you can just collapse that and don't have to worry about it or ever look at it. But the primary way you're going to find something in here is usually going to be by search. So if I was looking for let's say a 2055, I could just type in 2055 up here, and it's going to show me all of the different 2055s. So I'm looking for a condo form, just do condo, and it'll show me all the different condo forms. And keep in mind that they can show up in multiple categories. So there are the condominium forms are going to show up in Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, non-lender, and of course the condominiums. And you can see that we also have a couple of new ones here. There is an individual condominium unit appraisal report hybrid. We just added that in the version of Appraise-It Pro that was just released. So that's going to be new in there. But that's pretty much the way you can always find what report type you want to start, is just using that search. And then if you search for something and you want to view everything again, just click on the red X, and now you can see everything again. You'll also notice that when I come over here and I select the regular 1004 UAD, I have a bunch of templates that I've created here. Now, I have created templates based on the town or city that they're in. You may do it for the neighborhood. You may do it for a specific circumstance. You may do it for a specific lender or AMC. You can do a template for whatever reason you want. And for those of you coming over from Appraise-It Classic, a template is basically like a custom skeleton. They are technically different on the back end and under the hood, but basically a template serves the same function as a custom skeleton. The difference being the templates are way easier to create and way easier to manage. For those of you coming over from another software vendor, you'll be very familiar with the template model. Essentially, a template is nothing more than a regular report file that has been promoted to template status. So you can do everything you can do with a regular report. You could start it up as a blank, go ahead and add the forms and the addenda that you want, pre-fill things out, add photos, add PDFs, add your license, all that kind of stuff, whatever you want to put in there, and then save it, and then that can be your starting point, as I've done here. Now I'll show you how to create a template here a little bit later, but that's basically the gist of what a template is. Now you'll also see down here there's a checkbox, include suggested forms in the default template. This is checked by default, and what this means that if you just double click over here, or if you come over here and you double click on default template, or if you just simply select default template and then create report, they all do the same thing, then it will open up a blank default template. I'm going to do that now real quick to kind of show you. And now we have a blank form ready for us to fill out. And this is kind of one that we've created for you. We've included some comps 4 through 6, some photo pages, the mapping and sketch addenda, some extra photo pages are in there. Stuff that you're probably going to need for your basic report. However, and I'm going to close this out. If you want to, you can uncheck that. And basically what it will do is it will just open up a 1004 with just the primary form and then the pieces of the report that are required for Appraise-It Pro to function. So the report profile, UAD definitions and abbreviations, a couple of these extended comments, things like that that are core to the appraisal report. Those are the only things that will be included. Most of the time, you're probably going to want to keep this checked. Of course, most of the time, I'm probably going to be opening it up from a template, but if you are building templates, you'll probably want to keep this checked because it's going to add the things that you're going to need. Next, we're going to move on to open. Now, most of you will probably not come in here except to come in here for recent reports, because if you were working on a report yesterday, day before yesterday, and you do want to go back to it for some reason, it's easier to just come over here to open and then select it from recent reports. This is going to leave you, it's going to basically show you the last 20 reports or so that you worked on. And you'll notice that there are a couple of different icons here. Sample ua5.rpt. This is an old Appraise-It classic file. And if you see the little A next to it, those are the updated Appraise-It Pro RPTX files. The main difference here is that the report files are binary. The RPT files from Appraise-It Classic are binary. The RPTX are based on XML. The way that Appraise-It Pro handles them, it doesn't matter. It treats an old Appraise-It Classic file just as it does an Appraise-It Pro file. It makes no distinction. It opens them just fine. You'll never know the difference. And for those of you who are moving over from another software vendor, or if you are an Appraise-It Pro existing user or Appraise-It Classic existing user, and you have a colleague that also uses another software like Alamode or ACI, then you can load up Mismo XML documents once again, just as if they were regular Appraise-It Pro files. As a matter of fact, we distribute Appraise-It Pro for free to AMCs and lenders and other professionals who need to have a Mismo XML viewer. You can download it for free from our website and you can use it as that. So it will open up Mismo documents. So if you're moving over from another software vendor, we get asked a lot, can you convert my old files over? The answer to that is no, with an asterisk. No, because we cannot break encryption and everybody encrypts their files. Even though you own the content that's in those files, we cannot legally break that encryption. It violates the Digital Millennium Copyright Act of 1996. I know that's fascinating reading. Go read it if you want. But what we can do is if you've been archiving your Mismo XML documents, then we can bring those in and you'll get most of the report. You'll get the parts of the report that you really want and need. In addition to that, you can open up a report by browsing. Once again, not very useful. You'll probably use the search, which we'll go over in a minute. You can open up a classic report. Once again, not very useful because if you have classic, we are going to index all of your old classic reports. So once again, you'll just go to search. Or you can open up a Mismo document. This probably will not be very useful to you if you're moving over to Appraise-It Pro, because if you are and you've been archiving your old Mismo XML documents from your old software provider, our tech support can move that stuff into a folder, a subfolder of Appraise-It Pro, so they'll get indexed as well. So you'll be able to search for them just as if they were regular Appraise-It Pro files. There's also Open Template and then Open Classic Skeleton. Now you may use Open Classic Skeleton if you're moving over from Appraise-It Classic. The reason is because we do not automatically convert your old skeletons from Appraise-It Classic over to Appraise-It Pro. We did initially do this in the development of Appraise-It Pro, but in beta testing, we figured out, and our beta tester figured out, that that's not exactly what they wanted, because it would bring over everything. It would bring over all these old skeletons that everybody had forgotten about, that were dirty and not being used and had issues with them. So what we decided to do is we do allow you to open up a classic skeleton and then thus convert it and then save it as a template. But I recommend only doing that for really large and complex skeletons from Appraise-It Classic. I would highly recommend that you just create new templates in Appraise-It Pro. Twofold reason. One, you're going to start your career with Appraise-It Pro with nice, clean templates that are up to date, not going to have any problems with them. The other reason is that in creating templates, you are very quickly going to learn how Appraise-It Pro works. It's a great way to learn the program. Moving on to search. In the part 2 to this webinar, which is Appraise-It Pro tips and tricks, I do go over the ways that you can customize this. But for now, we're just going to use the default searching here because this is going to have pretty much everything you're going to want to search with. And the way this works is just like it did in Appraise-It Classic. The more information search terms that you put into here, the more narrowed and targeted your search results are going to be. So you can put census tract in there, but then you can also put a partial street address, maybe a zip code, and you're really going to narrow down what you're actually looking for. Of course, if you already know what the street address is, then you can just put that in there and then find the exact report you're looking for. Now, I don't do appraisals on this computer. I don't use Appraise-It Pro to do appraisals. I use it mostly for training and for testing purposes. So I don't have a ton of reports in here, but I'm just going to do a blank search. You'll see I have like 5 or 6 in here. I think it's 5. But this is what the search results look like. Now, for whatever reason, I messed something up in Appraise-It Pro when I was monkeying around with it, as I often do, and it's not showing the front view photo here. I'm going to fix that eventually when I get around to it. I keep forgetting to do it. But if this was what I was looking for, if I click on it, I would see the front view photo here, as well as some key information about that particular address. By the way, this is the address, that's the house I grew up in. So if you want to go see where I grew up, that's it. But this is going to be some key information about the particular address. Actually, no, this is the house I grew up in. There we go. And then you can decide if that's the one you're looking for, and then you can go ahead and double click on it, and that will pull that particular report up. From here, you can also open up the report. You can import forms. You can import comps from there, or you can open up the work file. I go over the work file more in depth in our part 2, the Appraise-It Pro tips and tricks. But essentially, that creates a folder that you can dump documents, photos, whatever you want that you're not going to be putting into the report, but you still want to associate with the report. That's what the work file is. So I'm going to clear that. Next, we have settings. If you like to tinker, you can come in here and you can customize Appraise-It Pro to your heart's content, including the colors that are displayed. However, if you are someone who is a little bit trepidatious about monkeying around and stuff, you may want to only come in here with one of our tech support people on the line with you. If you do like to tinker and you come in here and you change something, I would highly recommend that you write it down on a Post-it note or something like that, so that if it creates a result that you aren't really happy with, you know where to come back and change it. And if you do monkey around with the colors, you can always come in here under colors, reset to default colors, and then it'll put it back to factory settings. So let's go ahead and close this. No, I don't want to save. Come back over here. We'll come back up here to new, and I'm going to open up a blank 1004, which is, why is that not showing up in here? Oh, I've already got it selected. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the default template here, and we're going to look at the editing area. So Appraise-It Pro is designed to work on a 1080p widescreen monitor, which is the most common monitor that you're going to find out there. If you have a 4K monitor, this text might be kind of small, and all of your other programs are going to have small text as well, unless you've changed the scaling. If you need help in doing that, our tech support can walk you through that. But it's made for a 1080p monitor. Now, if you have an old monitor that's a square monitor, let me make this a square, then the program may look something like this. In my Appraise-It Pro tips and tricks, I do go over how you can adjust these panels on the left and the right. I'm not going to go over that right now. If you need help immediately with that, though, you can contact our tech support, and they'll show you how that works. But for right now, we're going to be using the default setup. And in that default setup, we have 4 panels on the left and the right. Of course, this is the editing area. It's called WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. So exactly how this looks, minus the colors, is how it's going to print out or be printed to PDF or be printed to PDF and embedded into the Mismo document. Over on the left-hand side, we have the report panel. We also have the validator panel. And on the right, we have the responses panel and the format panel. There's also one hidden panel, and it is the help panel. And I'll go over that here in a little while, but it's tabbed along with the responses panel. So let's start with the report panel. If you are moving over from Appraise-It Classic, listen up, because this is the one part of this webinar that you need to pay extra close attention to, because this is the primary difference between Appraise-It Classic and Appraise-It Pro. And once you understand this and it clicks in your mind, moving over to Appraise-It Pro will be very simple. For those of you moving over from other software, you're already going to be used to this, so this is going to be old hat to you. The big difference between Classic and Pro is that with Appraise-It Pro, you build the report from the beginning and as you go along, instead of like an Appraise-It Classic where you would build the report at the end when you were ready to quote unquote print it or create Mismo XML or whatever you did with the report. So in Appraise-It Pro, we start out, this is essentially the table of contents of the report. We can look at all the different table of contents. We can then add and subtract from the table of contents, and we can adjust the order of the table of contents. So let's start with, how do we subtract from the table of contents? How do we get rid of something? Well, let's say in this particular case, we're not going to need a flood map. I can highlight flood map, click on remove, say yes, and now flood map is gone. How can we reorder the table of contents? Super simple again. We just select what we want to reorder, in this case, the location map. And let's say we want to have the location map be at the beginning of the report. I can click on it and then drag it up here to the very top. And now the location map is the first thing in the report. Super simple. You can do that with any of these. Just click and drag them. And finally, how do we add new addenda to our table of contents? That, once again, is very simple. There are 2 ways you can do it. The first way is, you may have noticed that there are some icons next to each line item here, next to each addenda or minor form. Some of these are locks. That means that those cannot be removed. They are required for the operation of the report. So there's one that's going to have a star next to it, and that one means that's the primary report type, in this case, the 6 pages of the 1004. And you'll notice there's a little arrow right here. That's how you can kind of jump to different pages within that particular form or addenda. And then you'll see some of them don't have anything at all, but some of them have a green plus next to them. If you see the green plus, you'll notice there's also a green plus up here. That's how you can add extra versions of whatever that is. In this case, we have extra sales comps. So in the default 1004 template, we have comps 1 through 3, of course, in the main body of the report, and then comps 4 through 6 are a separate addenda. If I click on the plus next to comps 4 through 6, it will now add comps 7 through 9, and it will automatically put photos for comps 7 through 9 in there. Click the plus again. Now I've got comps 10 through 12. Click it again. Now I've got comps 13 through 15. Unlike Appraise-It Classic and Appraise-It Pro, you can have as many comp pages in there as you want, as many listing pages in there as you want, as many photo pages in there as you want. We're not going to limit you. However, whoever you're sending the report to may limit you, especially if you're doing it with as an ENV format in the AI Ready or the envelope uploader. the OID envelope uploader. So just keep that in mind, but we are not going to put any type of restriction on it. If you need to add something that's not already in there, we're going to click on add. Let's say we want to put our flood map back in. So I'm just going to do a search for flood. There's my flood map. Once again, just like in the file new area, it can show up under multiple different headings. Right now it's under frequently used. And what I'm going to do is I can either double click and it will put it at the very end of my table of contents, or I can click and drag it over there and put it after location map. This right here is just a recreation of what's over here, but it is not set in stone until we click on save and close. So I click on save and close, and now it's added flood map in over here on the left-hand side. Real simple. If you have any questions with that, let me know. Just use the live chat that's over on the right-hand side or below, depending upon how you're watching this video. And if you're watching this after the fact, feel free to email me, training@sfrep.com, or if you are not signed in on YouTube, you can also send an email to training@sfrep.com. That's another way you can get in touch with me. All right, let's move on to the validator. We spent the most time on the report down here. These last three are going to go very quickly. For the validator, this does what it says. It's going to check your report. Now, there are two ways that it's going to do validation. It is going to do a real-time validation. It's going to check your work as you're going along. And then it's going to do a comprehensive validation that you need to invoke or you need to start when you get to the end of the appraisal. And I recommend only doing it when you get to the end. Otherwise, it's going to freak out and let you know that there's parts of the appraisal you haven't filled out. So real-time validation, the easiest way to kind of see this at work is in the state field. If I come in here and I type in NC for the state, it's happy with it, nothing happens. However, if I have fat fingers and I do BC and I tab out, now it's going to turn red because BC is a Canadian province. It is not a state. So it is going to let me know that there is a problem by turning the field red. Now, if I happen to be down here, let's say in the grid, I can look over here and notice that I have a hard stop with a big red X there and it's saying state. If I double click on that, it will jump back up to that field and have it selected so I can go ahead and make a change, in which case I just type in NC to correct it, and now it's happy again. It is going to do that in various locations throughout the report. If I come down here to the grid and under site, I just put, or let's see, under view, if I just put under view, pretty, tab out, well, it's going to let pretty be in there because it doesn't necessarily have to be in that format. But let's see, if I do something like design, if I do W1, it's going to say, nope, that's wrong. So I can come back in here and then call it, use the attachment over here. We'll go over that panel right there. Just know that if you type directly in there and you make a mistake, it's going to flag it by turning it red. Now, there are two rule sets that you can also use in the validation process. There's UCDP, which is the general UAD rule set. There's also a pull down here, and I can select FHA. That'll be the FHA rule set. Both of those rule sets are very, very similar to each other. However, FHA does have some key differences. I don't remember what they are at the moment, but there are just some small differences. But if you're doing an FHA report, make sure you select the rule set as FHA just to make sure that it's going to be checking on the correct rule set. Also, it will remember what your previous selection was, so make sure that you change it back. Make sure whenever you start a report, just check this rule set and make sure that it is displaying the rule set that you're going to want to check by. Next, we're going to come over here to the Responses tab. Responses are one of my favorite things in the way that they were implemented in Appraise-It Pro. I have a bunch of them set up here for the city field. And what I can do is, in order to create something, I can type in here and then click on Manage Responses. If you're a Appraise-It Classic user, you will very much know what this particular window is because we basically lifted it from Appraise-It Classic. But I could give it a title if I want. Maybe I give it we'll go over here in a minute. I'll show you how to do that in a second. What I really want to show you, though, is how you use a response. So I've got a bunch of them already set up here. And there's a couple of different ways that I can use that response. I can just simply come over here and double click to place it in there. Or I can assign my most used responses to give them an F key so that while I'm typing, I can just reach up here to the F keys and hit F3 and put Stallings in there. Or I can hit F4 and put Charlotte in there and then tab out. The other way you can do it, and this is my favorite way, is you can just start typing. So if I want to put Denver, and by the way, it's Denver, North Carolina, not Denver, Colorado. I can type in DE. There it is. There's Denver, and just tab out. So you can see that if you just type the first or second letter, first and second letter, and you can burn through your fields very quickly by just, first or second letter, tab, first or second letter, tab, and kind of really burn through some of this. These responses also can be multi-line, they can be multi-paragraph, they can be multi-page. So if you come down here, you could create an entire response, and then when you invoke it, it will fill this all up, and then it will automatically trigger the extended comments and then continue dumping that data into the extended comments as well. All right. Now, how do you create something? So we've got, let's use the town of, I've already got Robbinsville in there. I'm running out of towns to be able to use. Let's do, nope, I already got that one in there too. Let's do West. We'll pretend there's a West Palm Beach, North Carolina. There isn't, but we'll just pretend. So we'll put in there West Palm Beach, and then I am going to click on Manage Responses. It's automatically going to fill in West Palm Beach there, and I can give it a title if I want, but if it's a single field, you don't really have to give it a title. The title will just be whatever's in there. But if it was a 2 pages worth of comments, then you may want to give it a succinct title so that you know what it is. And then here's where you can also assign it to an F key if you want. Then once you've done that, you click on Save, Close, and now West Palm Beach is down there, and I can just simply double click it. And this brings up one other thing that I do want to show you, which is that there is auto-shrinking text in Appraise-It Pro. It's one of my favorite features. If I type in Charlotte, okay, cool. I can type in Charlotte a second time. I've got enough room. But obviously you can see I'm not going to be able to fit Charlotte a third time. So what will happen? Well, what it'll do is it'll automatically shrink the text so that I can fit Charlotte in there a third time. And honestly, if you saw this as a printed document and you didn't know that this had been shrunken down a little bit, you'd be hard pressed to be able to tell the difference. But what happens if I try to do Charlotte again? Oops, I got fat fingers here. It's kind of weird because this microphone's in the way. So let's try this again. So obviously it can't fit Charlotte another time, because then the text would get too slow, or excuse me, get too small. So it runs off the field. Now this is moderately helpful in a field like the city, but where this really becomes helpful is if you have a multi-line field down here, then you would be able to, if you think about it, if you've got more text available to be able to shrink down, then you can fit more in there. So if you've got a whole bit of text in here and you keep typing, you could probably get an extra, sentence in there. And that's really helpful because nobody likes extended comments. If the reader doesn't like having to flip back and forth, I know you guys don't like them. So if you don't have to jump over to extended comments just because you have one extra small sentence you need to get in there, it'll auto shrink for you. Now, of course, you can turn that off if you want to, but it will auto shrink, and that will allow you to fit a little bit more data in there. Finally, the format panel, really self-explanatory, because if you were a user of Appraise-It Classic, the format panel is nothing more than the UAD panel reincarnated here into Appraise-It Pro. If you were using another software like Alamotor, ACI, or Bradford, the UAD panel here is essentially just the format helper that you probably had in your old software. However, in a lot of other software, they will pop up a window or something at you. We didn't want to do it that way because that gets in your way and it can be kind of distracting. So we keep it over here on the right-hand side, mainly because we know that you guys have been doing UAD formatting for 12 years now? So you know the formatting already. So we allow you to type directly into the field if you already know the formatting. For instance, quality is like Q1, Q2, whatever. You don't need a pull-down menu over here to help you do that. So you can just type it directly in there and then tab out. But if you do make a mistake, it'll yell at you. Okay? So if you do it correctly, no problem. So that's what the format panel is. When you are in a field that is not a formatted field like the one I'm in right now, then the format panel basically becomes a color key. And it'll let you know formatted fields are green, the active field is gray, the active checkbox group is going to be gold color, worn fields red, etc., etc. And remember I told you about that little hidden one up here? It's the Help tab. The Help tab is not going to be very helpful for you guys, but if you do have some interns or if you have some trainees that are just getting into appraising, this can be very helpful to them. There's help text written for pretty much every field here, and it will let you know what you need to put into that field, and it will know the constraints that you have in that field as well. Most of this help text is lifted from the UAD help text document, but we did make some changes to kind of clean it up and make it a little bit more readable. But that's what the help tab is there. Also up here, services and tools. Tools are going to be your local programs that are going to help you in making an appraisal. So your databases, your image manager, your comp manager. I don't generally go over these in this webinar because for those of you who are coming over from Appraise-It Classic, comp manager, image manager are identical. So there's no reason to go over it. If you're moving over from another software vendor and you want to know how to use comp and image manager, on our YouTube page, which is youtube.com/SFREP, we do have some videos that tell you how to use those programs, and I will be glad to do a one-on-one training with you as well. And then over on the services tab, these are your internet or web-based services, so you will need to be connected to the internet in order to use any of these programs. So just keep that in mind. So if you're out in the field and you don't have yourself tethered to your phone or something like that, you will need to be online to be able to use these. The one last thing I do want to show you is going to be down here in the lower right-hand corner. This little green light here, currently it says all services are online. If you click on that, it will then give you some more details, which is that all services are online. However, if this was either yellow or red, yellow, just like a stoplight, yellow means that services could be degraded. So let's say that street maps are working, but they're just slow. Then we might turn it yellow and let you know, hey, we know street maps are slow. We're investigating it. Don't need to call us. We're already aware of it. And then if it's red, then that means that street maps, flood maps, something is going to be down, and it will give you a little synopsis here of what the actual problem is. This can keep you from having to contact us. So if you are experiencing a problem, you think there may be a server down or something like that, this is going to be real-time info. And if this is red, it will let you know we already know about it and we're currently working on it. You don't need to give us a call. You can still give us a call if you want, but just understand that everybody else is going to be giving us a call as well. So this is the way that you can know what the current status is. And if you click on the message that comes up, it will pull up this web page, which is status.sfrep.com. You can see the status of the services previously, and it'll let you know right now we have 23 services up and nothing is down. And that is the way that we like to keep it. If you are using Appraise-It Classic, you want to use status.sfrep.com, you're more than welcome to. You just can type it directly into your web browser. It is available to you. But in Appraise-It Pro, it is integrated down in here. Also, and this is something that I go over in our Appraise-It Pro tips and tricks, our second part to this webinar, kind of the more advanced webinar on Appraise-It Pro. You can move these panels around. I'm not going to go into how you do that right now. But I am going to tell you that if you happen to do this by accident and pull something out and you're like, oh, well, wait, what did I do? And then you try to fix it and then everything just goes sideways on you. What you can do is just don't panic. Come over here to view, select reset to default, say yes. It'll put everything back the way it was. So don't panic if that happens. Just go to view and select reset to default. Okay. That's pretty much everything I wanted to go over. One more thing over on the support tab. Some people have been emailing tech support using this send feedback button. It will eventually get to tech support if you use that, but it's going to take the long way to get there. So make sure that you use this little email function right here instead of send feedback. Okay. So under tech support, send feedback. Also, by the way, there is going to be links to our website and then all of our social media, including our YouTube page as well. And then if you want to get self-help, you can click on here. That will open up our knowledge base, and then you can look through here. by individual articles and topics, or you can do a search to find how-tos on a bunch of different stuff. So if you ever wanted to know how to use the flood maps, click on flood maps. Appraise-It Pro using flood maps. Boom, you got a video, and you even have a step-by-step instruction document here with screenshots. Okay, guys, do any of you have any questions? Remember, you can ask the questions by using the live chat that's going to be either to the right or that is going to be on the bottom if you're in theater mode. So go ahead and get your questions in now. If you're watching this after the fact, or if you're a little bit shy, you can always send me an email and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have to training@sfrep.com or matt@sfrep.com. Either way, they go to me. But of course, if you have any questions that need to be answered right away, if you're having a problem with Appraise-It Pro, you're stuck, just contact our tech support number. That number is 800-644-4051, 800-644-4051, or you can email them directly, tech@sfrep.com, or you can also, under support, you can go to chat right here, and you can contact them directly via chat. So, there don't appear to be any questions. If you do have some, get them in now. Anyway, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas coming up. Or if you celebrate Hanukkah, I hope you have a great Hanukkah. I hope you guys have a great New Year's coming up. Please drink responsibly, be safe, yada, yada, yada. Don't drink and drive. We really want you guys to be safe, and we can start a new year and hopefully get more business drummed up for you guys, because I know it's a little bit slow out there right now. Thank you very much. I look forward to talking to you. If you're moving over from another software package, contact me directly, matt@sfrep.com. I will be happy to set up a one-on-one training with you and your employees, or I can answer any technical sales related questions you might have. Be happy to get on the phone with you and discuss Appraise-It Pro. Hope all of you have a wonderful rest of your week. Stay warm because it's about to get cold here. They're talking about snow at the end of the week here in North Carolina and in West. We're in the mountains. We're not the regular North Carolina. We're in the mountains part. So we get a lot of snow here. You guys have a great one, and I look forward to talking to you soon.